digestion. Gut microbiota, which is bacteria, the bacteria balance in the gut, plays an active role in the development of insulin resistance. Gut microbiota, which again, gut bacteria, controls metabolic endotoxemia, inflammation, and associated disorders. The gut is a major modulator and source of inflammation. And now, the associated disorders and inflammation goes back to the insulin resistance. If we look at, this is Annual Review of Medicine 2011, in fact that's this month's journal, it says, it is increasingly evident that gut microbes may shape the host's metabolic and immune network activity and ultimately influence the development of obesity and diabetes. And these are all the mechanisms by which a disrupted balance of good and bad bacteria in your gut can actually cause you to gain weight, stay obese, and develop diabetes. So food sensitivities is one of those. Food sensitivities such as, this one it says, the immunostimulatory effect, in other words, the inflammatory effect of whey protein, which is one of the proteins that's found in dairy, and it's very common in those over-the-counter whey protein shakes and meal replacements. And it is found to be caused by the endotoxin contamination. In other words, whey protein becomes an endotoxin. Our body will convert it to a toxin inside us, and it will stimulate the immune system to basically increase inflammation. Food sensitivities, and here's another one, dairy. I like to put this one up here because people wonder, well, you know, why are people sensitive to dairy? Why is it so common? Why do people talk about going dairy-free? Well, we don't really make the enzyme lactase anymore after infancy. So 70% of the adult population throughout the world are lactose intolerant, and they just don't know it. They contribute their symptoms, their side effects to other things. But we don't make that enzyme after infancy. It's just a sign we're probably not supposed to be drinking milk after infancy as humans. Yes?
So, just on those last couple slides about the GI weight connection, so are you saying that the inflammation in the microbes, you know, the bacteria, what's the bottom line there? It's dairy related?
No, that was not the connection there. Sorry about that.
No.
Those are, yeah, different. I moved on to a different thought and topic. Okay. But although, let me say that if you are lactose intolerant or you're not digesting some of your foods well, those sugars can end up in the colon undigested, and then they feed bacteria that can ferment those. And then these are the more I guess, opportunistic bacteria that can overgrow and then cause symptoms and issues. Less of the more healthy bacteria, especially yeast. Yeast will feed on in the gut. We have yeast naturally in our gastrointestinal tract, but we just want a little bit of it. And if you give it undigested sugars, it can cause the growth of that. Now, that's a side note. That's not what I was saying there. My point was that there's a gut obesity, gut diabetes relationship. These two journal articles that I put up there were pointing to the balance of good and bad bacteria.
And do you have like something to do about that, or
well,
is it just all
diet and probiotics. So you need to stop feeding the bad bacteria and the yeast, and feed it the good bacteria, and then just take probiotics, high dose probiotics. So here's an example of how food sensitivities can affect weight loss. And this is a video done on a Fox News radio program, or Fox News television program, that explains or shows a couple testimonials of weight loss and food sensitivity.
Food allergies are known to make people swell, cause hives, or even be life-threatening. But doctors say food sensitivities silently happen to most of us and can cause hundreds of ailments. Two patients tell us eliminating a few foods has cured their problems. Being as simple as pasta, we have to be. Debbie James fell down on her luck. She suffered from arthritis, migraines, rashes, and stomach problems. She didn't know these problems were brought on by what she was eating.
I had no idea that I could be sensitive or allergic to any foods.
After taking food allergy and DNA tests, Debbie found out her body is sensitive to beef, chocolate, and gluten, which comes in the forms of wheat, barley, and rye. She quit eating all of these foods.
The first thing was I had no pain anymore. I'd had chronic
tolerance.
Lisa McCaleb found out her body is sensitive to gluten and eggs. She lost 50 pounds when she quit eating these foods.
Do not have headaches anymore, and that was one of the main things. I did not realize that the headaches were from the food allergies and the things I was eating.
In research, we have actually shown food reactions creating damage to every tissue in the body.
Dr. Osborne says his patients often clear up overnight with problems like acne, psoriasis, eczema, and even hypothyroidism just by eliminating foods their bodies silently can't handle. Dr. Don Ford offers his patients a blood test for food sensitivities called the ALCAT.
And you see how tremendously it can impact someone's life just to change their diet for them. And when they see that impact themselves, then they're motivated to continue it. Unlike most diets that people go on for weight loss where they do it for a while and they lose their motivation.
Debbie and Lisa are more motivated than ever.
I had terrible arthritis pains. I could hardly use my hands. And now I make jewelry as a hobby, which I couldn't have sat there and strung the beads.
That's been the main difference. Just feeling good, feeling energetic.
You can go to our website.
I wanted to keep playing. The ALCAT is the test that I do for food sensitivities. I like that one. It's pretty straightforward, easy to do, and it looks at, bless you, it looks at an immune response to food sensitivities, not just IgG or IgE like most common ones. Also, something to point out is that our hunger is signaled and controlled by gastrointestinal hormones. So gastrointestinal hormones are regulators of appetite and energy balance. These hormones inform the CNS, or the central nervous system, primarily of changes in the body's overall fat and energy reserves, and short-term signals that primarily reflect nutritive state or energy intake. And if we don't have a healthy gastrointestinal tract, we've got inflammation going on, we've got a gut microbe imbalance, then we won't have these good hunger signals being sent throughout the system. Your gut health can influence your appetite. Also, Candida. We're talking a little bit about Candida. And here are some analogs to the Krebs cycle that Candida produces. These are organic acids that Candida produces as byproducts, like exhaust fumes in cars. And here's how they affect our system. This is Candida, and this is the Krebs cycle, the process in which we produce energy, ATP3. ATP, I mean, thinking about the criteria for diagnostics. So here is how yeast produces toxins for our Krebs cycle. So citramalic acid is a analog to malic acid or malate. 3-oxyglutaric acid to alpha-ketoglutarate. Carboxycitric acid is citrate, and tartaric acid is another analog to malic acid. And the problem is, this isn't really what the Krebs cycle wants, and it'll poison our mitochondria. It's like peeing in a gas tank. And now this is important. Poisoning mitochondria is important because glucose and lipid metabolism are largely dependent upon mitochondria to generate energy in the cells. Collectively, these observations suggest that mitochondrial dysfunction may be a central cause of insulin resistance and complications. It also plays a big role in autoimmune, especially conditions like fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, things that have poison mitochondrial connections. But it affects insulin, goes all the way back to our first bullet point today, which is blood sugar. Did you have a question?
Yeah, the Candida, does that live in the stomach?
Yep, mostly in the colon, but also in the small intestine.
And then it feeds with sugars? Right?
Yeah, typically sugar can make it overgrowth. Yes, you got it.
Okay.
Typically. So if you suspect you got some GI issues and you think they might be contributing to your weight or your symptoms, these are the analysis that I like to do in that order too. Stool analysis, organic acids, ALCAT, and then a basic one I do in office with some people is zinc tally. It just tells you if you have enough zinc in your body, and zinc is the rate-limiting mineral in making hydrochloric acid in the stomach. And if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid, you're not digesting your foods very well, which can sometimes be the start of all kinds of conditions.